Good afternoon. Welcome to the regular meeting of council for December 13th. I call the meeting to order at, well, it looks 1 o'clock. Thank you. I'd ask council at this time if there's any added items to the agenda. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you very much, Mayor Dahl. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to add outdoor rinks to the agenda under new business 6D, as in dog.
Thank you. Any further added items? Hearing none, the way that I'm going to work my council meetings, if we get an added item, I'm going to ask council to please vote on the added item, and then we'll just adopt the agenda as amended. So at this time, if there's no further added items, we have outdoor rinks, item 6D. I would ask for a motion, please. Councillor Ryan.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Dahl. I would move that we, sorry, you're actually asking for me to add the item. Move that we add the item on presentation on outdoor rinks to the agenda package for the December 13th meeting.
And the reasoning behind this, because it's different from the past for some, is that I like to make sure that all council members around the table have the opportunity for added items to say something prior to having them added to the agenda. And that gives us the opportunity to get a feel of who around the table is willing or not willing to work with the item. It's only fair. I want everybody to have the opportunity. But thank you very much. I just wanted to share that. So the motion's on the table. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now adoption of the agenda, please, as amended. Yes, Councillor Wilson.
I will make the motion to adopt the amended agenda for regular and closed council meeting Monday, December 13th, 2021.
Are there any questions? Okay, I'll call for the vote, please. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Page 3 of your agenda, item 2A, regular council meeting minutes of November 22nd. I would just ask for a motion, please, to put those on the table. Thank you, Councillor. You've got Councillor Daly, and I know that's not you, Wanda. So, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that we adopt the minutes from the November 22nd, 2021 regular council meeting as presented.
I just ask at this time, are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Presentations and delegations we do not have at this point, so we'll move down to item 4, business arising out of the minutes or unfinished business. Seeing none, we will move down to page 9 of your agenda, item 5A. That's the 2021-19 rates. Is it 19? Okay. Our rates bylaw. Sheena?
Thank you. It is the 2021-19, 2022 rates bylaw. It's being presented today for all 3 readings. The rates were first presented to council at the November 1st PMP meeting with proposed changes to 2 of the schedules, the water, wastewater, and solid waste rates, and the off-site levies. Since that day, the water, wastewater, and solid waste rates were again discussed during the interim operating budget discussions last Monday. So the changes to the rates bylaw being proposed today are on Schedule A, an increase of 10 cents a cubic meter to water and 8 cents a cubic meter to wastewater, and on Schedule K, an increase of 1.8% to all off-site levies.
I like the order that this has been presented. Thank you very much. Director Linderman, I would open the floor at this time to questions from council for any of these rates. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you very much, Mayor Dahl. I just have one little quick question on the off-site levies for Director Lindeman, and that is, at any point are we going to do an analysis to see how our levies compare to other communities? I know we do an increase annually to these, so I just was wondering, at what point do we say, okay, this is too much, or I don't know if that's a question that you could answer now or not. Thank you.
Yes, so we have that slated to happen in 2022, a full analysis with PCPS involved, and our municipal intern will help lead that process.
So, thank you very much.
Very good. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll be asking for 4 motions, and I'd like first reading, please. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that first reading be given to bylaw 2021-19, the rates bylaw.
Are there questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. First reading, those in favor? That's carried. Second reading, please. Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, I'd like to give second reading to bylaw 2021-19, a rates bylaw.
Open the floor to questions. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Looking for unanimous consent to be given to present bylaw 2021-19 for third and final reading. Councillor Daly.
I move that the third reading be given to the bylaw 2021-19 rates bylaw.
Legislations clerk.
Thank you. Councillor Daly, you made the third reading, and we need unanimous consent first.
Oh, sorry.
So
Jumped ahead a bit.
Yeah, just read that. There should be a
Yeah.
motion on the screen there.
Thank you, Legislative Clerk.
Yeah, I was just going to point that out, but
Sorry.
that's fine. Go ahead.
That the unanimous consent be given to present bylaw 2021-19 rate bylaw for third reading.
We need unanimous consent. I'll call the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Councillor Daly. Now we will go to third and final reading, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I make the motion that third reading be given to bylaw 2021-19 rates bylaw.
And those in favor? Councillor Blatz? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay, it's carried, third and final reading. Thank you. Moving along to new business now, please. Page 37 of your agenda, item 6A. This is the council P&P meeting cancellation request. Mr. Merritt?
Thank you, Your Worship. In consultation with the legislative clerk, we've determined there's no items right now to come to the January PMP meeting. Also, the 9 days preceding the PMP meeting, the town office is closed, so the likelihood of us getting items for this meeting is very small unless something emerges from today's meeting. So we're asking basically for this meeting to be canceled, and we will proceed on the 10th with the first council meeting of the year.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt. I will open the floor if anyone would like to speak to that and/or put a motion on the floor. All right, I'll call for a motion, please. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council cancel the January 3rd, 2022 Council Policies and Priorities Committee meeting as was previously scheduled.
Further comments? I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Did you have your hand up, Mr. Cummings? Councillor Cummings? Thank you. That's carried. Page 38, please. 6B, Council Policy 213C, Signing Authority. Mr. Merritt, who would you?
Director Linderman will speak to the signing authority as this was raised in the last PMP meeting.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. This was presented last Monday at PMP. Nothing has changed since that presentation.
Thank you. So we have the recommendation for the signing authority to be approved as presented. Does council have questions at this time? I would ask for a motion then, please. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Your Worship. That the signing authority, I move that the signing authority policy 213C be approved as presented.
Okay, if there's no questions, then I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Thank you. It's time. time to go to page 43 of your agenda, item 6C, 2022 interim operating budget. And I can turn it directly over to Director Linderman.
So both the 2022 interim operating and the 2022 capital budget were presented in detail to council at last Monday's PMP meeting. So we'll begin today with the interim operating budget. The interim operating budget presented last week had a deficit of $363,682. During discussions, council directed administration to bring back the interim budget with the following amendments. We removed the new deputy fire chief position for $95,380. There was an item that was missed during the presentation of this item, and that was the Mountain View County fire protection revenue that is associated with it. So by removing the deputy, this resulted in a decrease to that revenue line item of $12,296. Next, we removed the reprofiling of community facilitator to manager of community relations for $33,310, and the shift from casual to full-time for the aquatic center for $26,225. We changed the $41,000 funding of the half-ton replacement program to come from the asset replacement reserve. And then there were 4 items removed from the Sportsplex. So once those items were all removed, we were left with a deficit of $180,063. It was suggested to council at the last meeting that rather than discussing tax rates at this time, that the tax stabilization reserve be used to balance the budget. So tax rate discussion should happen in April when we have our final assessment numbers and a full annual budget. And I will open it to questions there on the operating budget.
The floor is for council at this time, if you have questions. Councillor Ryan?
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Dahl. I was wondering about the summer staff positions. We had discussed them, and they haven't been removed or added to on this list. So I just want to point out that the business case for the summer staff was going from 15 in 2021 to 17 proposed for 2022, according to this document that Sheena had given us, although there was mention of 3 staff people, so I'm not sure whether that number is correct or not. And I would just put out my 2 cents with regards to this and say that I would like to continue to have the number sitting at 15 for another season at least. We have a brand-new director of operations who said that he would be interested in looking at efficiencies and how the summer staff worked. And also, we're looking at purchasing this 1-ton with a trailer to make it better for equipment to be moved around, which is going to save on time and make it more efficient for the department to run. So my comment would be to leave the staff positions as they are, and that would be a savings of $37,800.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Any comments for Councillor Ryan with regards to her recommendation? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would certainly echo those comments of Councillor Ryan. I think it's an opportunity for this council to show the leadership in the area of cost control and cost containment as well. We've touted the Operations Center as providing opportunities for efficiencies, and this would be an ideal time to hopefully see if those efficiencies, what they are, reflect them by holding the seasonal hiring flat as far as the summer students go. And again, I think it demonstrates it's on principle as well as leadership and cost containment going forward. So I certainly support holding a line on any seasonal hiring. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Merritt, you were next, and then Councillor Daly.
Yes, I just want to speak to that. I do believe that this will impact our ability to do a service level. I do appreciate that Director Grayco is going to look at all the operations, including what the summer students do. But it's very difficult to make a cut and then to make that reassessment. So I am concerned that those are going to be cuts to our service level. We've had 17 people, and in realizing that COVID has taken place over the last bit, the reason why we moved from 15 to 17 summer students in the past is because we've made our, as I mentioned at the PMP session, our sportsplex a full round year complex as opposed to closing down during the summer months. So that is a concern of mine, but again, I haven't done the analysis, and maybe Director Greco may have a bit more information. But if not, that's my comment.
Thank you for that, Mr. Merritt. Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Your Worship. I concur with Councillor Ryan and Councillor Wilson's comments in regards to those positions, as well as the other positions that you had mentioned. So I think in these times that we do have to look at our efficiencies and look at our operations and our service agreements, and take a look at what we can afford, and be responsible to the taxpayers for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Mr. Director Greco?
Yeah, with respect to the summer students, we are in the operations department. We will certainly put a more thorough analysis together. You know, we are at a point now where we're needing summer students for a minimum of 3 students for our public works. We would consider another summer student for, at minimum, on the utilities side. So I do caution us in not having the staff available to move forward, that we much of the trees and shrubs that are within the community need maintenance, and I do caution us that we may not have the resources to perform those duties.
Councillor Walsh and then Councillor Blatz.
Yeah, I'm against just cutting indiscriminately without really delving into this. And I trust administrations, what they've put through this for summer staff. This is not permanent positions. This is staff to help out during the year, especially in the summer months. And I've said it before, you know, people go on holidays also. So I do support hiring a summer staff of 17.
Councillor Blatz, and then I'll speak.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I too concur with what Councillor Walsh has said, and I have a grave concern about cutting back on the maintenance of our shrubs and our trees. That comes at a great cost to us if we don't take care of them properly, and we have to start a replacement program instead of maintaining what we can. So I am not in agreement to cutting back summer staff at all. I would prefer to leave it as is, have Director Greco do a full analysis over the summer and come back perhaps maybe next fall, or when we, and have a better discussion when he's had time to analyze the whole situation fully. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I see Councillor Cummings. I would also add to that I've been an avid user over the years outside, and I would prefer that we hold it at 17. I've never once seen the staff, the summer staff out there where they weren't working, and we do need to have, exactly as Councillor Blatz and I've heard around the table, Mr. Director Greco, who is new, bring back for the future exactly where he needs to hold at. So, Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Your Worship. So this year we added a gigantic park to the town of Olds in the new park down by the operations center. We add stuff to our parks every year, and to think that we can maintain a steady staff to maintain those parks is, in my mind, a little foolish. If we're going to have acres large parks added to our portfolio, we're going to need staff to maintain those parks, and that staff number is going to increase as we increase our parks. We demand our developers build parks into their developments. We demand that. We don't suggest it, we demand it. And we have to then take on the fiscal responsibility of maintaining those properties. We have part-time casual or full-time casual employees because they're the cheapest form of employee we can have. I think it's fiscally responsible to have summer students rather than hiring full-time permanent staff to do this maintenance that we as a council and as a town have insisted we put upon ourselves by the continuation of proliferation of parks in our community. We want the parks, we have to maintain the parks. So I fully support administration in their request to have 17 rather than 15 summer students. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council Ryan?
I'm just going to make one final comment, and that is, this is not a cut. This is actually just holding the line at the 15. This is, what they're asking for is 2 additional people to go back up to the 17. But we ran with 15 this past summer with that brand-new ballpark, and seemed to work out just fine. So that's my final comment on it.
You, Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I will just remind I guess Councillor Ryan, that we had several complaints last summer in regards to weeds and grass and mowing and all other types of things. And we talk all the time about attracting for tourism and beautifying our community. And to me, to have 2 extra staff members is really not a hard stretch, I don't think. So I am fully in support of increasing summer staff.
Okay, we've gone around the table. Any final comments? Seeing none, it looks like we have 4 in favor and 3, remind me again, 3 that are holding the lines. So it looks like what I'm hearing around the council table is that we are in support of 17. So we would amend that to read 17. No. Yeah, because they want, Sheena, you understand.
And I do want to just note, so it would be 19 total summer staff. Just want to make sure that that is known.
The extra two staff is what,
There's 3 extra that are
Okay.
included in here. So 17 in operations, 1 in
17.
municipal enforcement, and 1 administration is what is included in today's budget.
any further comments? That's correct, I do recall you saying that. Okay. If there's no further comments, one last comment from Councillor Ryan?
Sorry, according to this business case, it was supposed to be 17 proposed for 2022. So we'd be going up from 15 to 19? So
16 to 19. 16 to 19.
these numbers are not accurate then, because this is saying 15.
No, it says if you read the totals at the bottom, 16 to 19.
Oh, okay. All right. So now we're adding 2 people in summer staff for doing parks, which is fine. And then you wanted to add an administration person, which, to me, again, I'm going to just reiterate what I said at policy and priorities. Is almost to me like a make-work program. And, I know that we've had fill-in gaps here and there from because we didn't have other staff positions filled, but, I'm sorry about it. I just don't agree with having that kind of expenditure, though.
Okay, I'm going to have to ask council at this point then to, we'll put a vote, we're going to have to put a motion on the table then. Just to be clear of who is for and against this. So I'll just get Sheena one more time to tell us the order. 19.
Yes, so there's 19. 17 would be in operations, 1 municipal enforcement, and 1 administration. The increases are 2 to parks, which is just to bring us back to pre-COVID levels, and 1 the administration position.
So the motion would read 17 in operations, 1 in municipal enforcement, and 1 in admin. Is that correct? Who would like to put that motion on the floor? Councillor Walsh?
I'm hoping Marcy corrected this, but I will support administration's request for 19 summer staff.
The discussion around the table, I will call for the vote on this. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3. And opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Director Linderman, you can carry on. Director Linderman, you can carry on.
In regards to the interim operating budget, if not, I would ask.
Okay. Between you and me, Councillor Ryan.
Having a little hard time with the microphone, Mayor Dahl. That's okay. My other comment at policies and priorities was with regards to the COLA. We had talked about COLA for our staff, and I had suggested council not in our employees in that if for employees council suggesting that I know it's a very small amount, it's not an amount of money, it's probably, I think Director Lindeman, you had mentioned 4,000 or something like that, so
Yes, just
it's
under
not a
4.
huge amount of money. I just think it's the principle of the thing, the leadership that we can show by doing this and saying, council is not taking a raise at this point, and to me, I know that there's a policy in place, but it's a council policy, and I think we can go against the policy at this point for something like this. If it was something a little bit different, I would say we have to stick to policy, but I think this shows leadership on the behalf of council, and I would like to see us not take the COLA.
Councillor Cummings, just supplemental, and then I'll call for you. Just to, I would like to ask Director Linderman, supplemental to the comment of Councillor Ryan, would council then have to play back up in the future and then catch up anyways?
Merritt.
Sorry, Mr. Merritt?
You're somewhat correct in that, because before the next election in the third year, we always do a council remuneration policy, and it's basically to see where we fit with a number of like-minded municipalities or like-sized municipalities. And if it's determined that we are falling behind, the recommendation is usually made by that committee, so I'm not going to prejudge what the committee would say 3 years from now. But if it is behind, usually the recommendation is to catch up. If it's not, is to basically make some realignment. So that's when the realignment usually takes place, is in the third year after the municipal election. So
Thank you for that information. Councillor Cummings and then Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Your Worship. So right off the bat, I do support a COLA for council, and I'll give my justification for that. First of all, it's a cost of living adjustment, not a raise. I know sometimes it's perceived by our constituents that it's a raise. It's not. Raises are done for council once every 4 years through the remuneration policy set forth by the province. So this is a cost of living adjustment. We've seen how inflation is affecting everybody and is going to get worse and worse and worse. The term leadership has been given a lot. This conversation happens at every committee and council that I belong to. Leadership means that someone's following. If we're providing leadership, who's following by also not accepting COLA? You can't lead without a follower, and I think that saying that not accepting COLA is a leadership issue is misunderstanding the terminology leadership. If we were to not accept COLA and lead by example, that would be us turning to our staff saying, you also should not get COLA because we're leading by example. We're not receiving COLA, so should you not as well. We voted in and discussed that wholeheartedly, that staff should receive COLA. I find that the only justifiable reason for refusing COLA for council is a political decision and optics, not the reality of the financial situation. The mayor brought up a really good point. I was part of the remuneration committee last year. We look at those 4 other communities, we average it out, we balance it out, and we provide an update for it. So whether we do it every year as council through COLA or we do it once every 4 years, the number is still going to increase. That's mathematically almost a given. So just taking COLA out is an optics issue. It's not a financial issue. We're doing the budget, and I know that optics are important because we are who we are. But no, COLA is a real thing. It should be taken into consideration as a financial concern for us as well.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'll just remind everyone at this council, too, that during the last remuneration study that was done on council and surrounding councils, at that point in time, the past council decided not to increase any of our honoraria. So that means for the next 4 years, we will not have any increase, when many of the municipalities around us did actually increase their honoraria. And I think that showed a great deal of leadership at that point in time due to the economics of our community and the surrounding area, that we did not, when we could have actually increased our remuneration at that time. So to accept a small cost of living increase, as Councillor Cummings has indicated, it is just the cost of living. And everything else is going up around us, and we are also too faced with increased cost of living. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. I firmly believe that the optics are worse for us in the future. I've dealt with many councils in the past where you hold, but you know what? At the end of the day, you end up getting a large bill. So I think it is optics as well. I would like to get final comments, and it looks like we might have to go to a vote on this. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not going to debate whether it's leadership or what have you. To me, it's demonstrating, albeit with a small price, some physical prudence and responsibility. I took a look on at the compensation, the total compensation package for Olds town councillors compared to similar towns' population based on the avail financial statements and financial graphs. Olds town councillors are, from a total compensation perspective, very well compensated. Now again, I'm saying that's total compensation, so all honoraria, all salary and everything else and allowances. But out of the 9 municipalities I looked at, Olds town councillors received the most compensation based on 2020. So again, I'm not going to debate whether this are leadership or not. To me, even with the small prize of $4,000, it demonstrates physical prudence and responsibility as far as managing the town's finances. I don't support COLA.
Any further comments? Councillor Walsh and then Councillor Ryan.
I like the role that leadership may play in this, and councillors are right on every front, but basically we want to demonstrate leadership. We can look at our per diems and how often we call meetings and who we invite to those meetings, and I'm going to suggest, just in the past month of being back on this council, we probably spent more money, well, way more than the $4,000. That's where we can take leadership, and that's when we can decide how we save taxpayers' money.
Ryan?
Well, I want to point out that most of the things we were involved in were training, and that's going to be a one-time cost. It's not going to be carried on year after year after year. And I'm not going to quibble over what somebody believes is their definition of leadership or even optics. I'm not doing this for optics. I'm doing this for exactly the reasons why Councillor Wilson had mentioned, is to show some kind of fiscal restraint a little bit. I do believe that, I know there's not a lot of money, but I do think that that it's an opportunity for us to show a little bit of fiscal responsibility, I guess, for what we're spending taxpayers' money on.
All right, if there's no closing comments at this time, I would ask for a motion. Sorry, Councillor Ryan.
I'm prepared to make a motion that we not include council in the increase to the COLA increase.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Ryan that the COLA not be included for elected officials. Is that correct?
Very well said. Thank you, Mayor Dole.
Okay. Those in favor? Those against? Okay, that's denied. Do we have any further questions with regards to this budget before we ask for the vote for our recommendations? Seeing none, I'm going to be asking for 4 separate motions, please, because they are separate.
So if we could just do the operating budget first, and then I have a bit more speaking.
Thank you, Director Lindeman, for changing that. Go ahead. Councillor Black.
No, I was just going to make the motion, if she's ready for the operating.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Councillor Blatz.
I move that the 2022 interim operating budget in the amount of $30,955,533 be approved as presented, and
Thank you very much. So we have the motion on the floor for the interim operating budget. I'll call for, are there any further questions before I call for the vote? Those in favor? Those against? That's carried. Dr. Linderman.
Thank you. So next we'll move on to the 3-year financial plan. So the MGA regulations implemented for the 2020 financial year now require municipalities to annually adopt a 3-year financial plan. So in accordance with this regulation, the 2023 to 2025 financial plan is being presented today. This financial plan was created using the 2022 interim budget numbers with the following assumptions: an inflationary factor of 2% on all goods and materials, contracted services, and utilities. COVID restrictions will be lifted, so the aquatic center and sportsplex revenues will return to pre-COVID numbers. Assessment will remain stagnant. Water and wastewater consumption rates increased by 5 cents a cubic meter annually. There are no new employees included. Insurance increases of 10% annually, and all service levels remain status quo.
Okay, we're ready for the second motion. I would ask who would like to make that motion. Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that the 2023 to 2025 financial plan be approved as information.
Thank you. Any further comments? Call for the vote. Those in favor? Thank you. Those opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Director Lindeman?
Okay, thank you. So now we'll move on to the capital budget. So the capital budget presented to council last week was $4,656,500. During our discussions, council directed administration to remove 7 items. These were the North Reservoir painting, the cemetery expansion and pond drainage, the Centennial Park revitalization, and then 4 items at the Sportsplex: the main area sound upgrade, the main floor painting, the score clock, and the play center. Removing these 7 items brought the capital budget down $627,000. However, since Monday, more information has been released in regards to the pricing of the electric half-tons. This resulted in a $10,000 increase to the cost for a total of $70,000 for this item. All of these changes bring the total 2022 capital budget being presented today to $4,039,500. You will notice at the bottom of the capital sheet that we are still $95,000 over our MSI allocation. There are a couple of items that administration would recommend can be eliminated and or reduced in order to make up this shortfall. But before we get into looking at these items, we do have Dale Rankel, our Manager of Operations, here today to give council more information in regards to the infrared asphalt repair equipment and the 1-ton truck and trailer purchase.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Do you want to start with the infrared?
I gotta turn this down. Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. And my beard's going to be crooked now because I've had that on. I just wanted to thank you very much for giving me the chance to speak to this particular piece of equipment and kind of share with you the insights that I've found and basically some of the efficiencies that we've been speaking to and looking to in the last 6 months. The infrared asphalt heater system is something I've used in my past other than Olds. This particular machine, it comes with, at the back there's a hot box to maintain hot asphalt. There's a crane where the propane tanks are in this picture. There's a unit that slides off with the crane. There is the infrared portion. And that infrared portion is basically what we use to heat the asphalt to make the repairs. Good. What's it do? Basically, it does road patching, road repairs. When we do stormwater, sewer patching digs, valves that we dig up throughout the town from time to time, after the repairs are completed, this machine can come in and pretty much immediately fix the potholes that we create when we do those digs. Parks, trails, repair and maintenance to add years to pathway replacement. Facility parking lots, we can do that in-house as well. Potholes, cracking, different issues like that. The hot box feature will allow us to purchase fresh asphalt. We can use it up to 3 days. The machine is actually set up so it can keep that asphalt hot for 3 days, which is something we couldn't do when we'd put it into the back of a truck, etc. It eliminates the need for a cold mix. Cold mixers, those bags that you see our operation department put out and fill potholes with. It's an expensive product. A 25 kilogram bag of that would be about $17, $18. You need about 3 bags to patch a hole. And basically, hot mix is about $1.78 a kilogram. So it works out actually to be almost half the cost. The difference too is cold mix. Wintertime especially, or when there's water, cold mix, it'll pound out of the hole. We've all experienced having a pothole that's full. Another pothole that basically needs to be refilled in 6 months. So we're using it over and over again. Whereas this machine, once we've actually sealed all the asphalt together, the asphalt itself will stay for a long, long period of time. It does work in colder temperatures. Basically, we can also use it for multi-uses like wintertime digs, when we're actually, utilities is trying to get through, digging in the frozen ground. We can actually heat the ground with this machine as well. So it does have multi-purposes. Year-round use, flexibility, and no need to wait for the fall contractors. You have to forgive my nerves. The infrared asphalt unit basically is 5-in-1. It is Ministry of Transportation approved. It's a trailer. The trailer is in one piece, of course, but it hauls all the equipment it needs. The hot box keeps asphalt again for 3 days. It's a diesel unit. What that means is we don't have to get special approvals or anything like that. Just needs basically its CVIP certification every year. Mobilization, the equipment, has a hoist to load and unload the infrared unit. Comes with a compactor, and basically, as required, it can go to different locations throughout the town of Olds as we need it. The infrared unit, again, basically it's the actual unit itself, once it's put on the ground, has wheels, so 2 people can move it around quite easily. We have a spray unit that comes with that, and it's a conditioning spray. What's kind of new about that is before we had to dry all the holes, we had to take heat, melt them all down, get it hot with torches, etc. If we didn't do a good job of that, it came out. This is all water-based, and basically the spray unit now is the spray itself is water-based. And there's no more need for having to worry about the snow and the ice and the water being in there. Plate compactor, of course, we don't have one with the town of this deal. It can compact and make the repair seamless. It can also be used in our Parks Department. It can be used in utilities, etc. So it's another multi-use. What's included? So we get a 6-foot 6x4 410 infrared heater, and it's split into 2 zones. So we don't have to waste a whole bunch of propane doing, lighting up that whole unit. It can actually do small repairs and things too as well. Comes with the heated asphalt bin. We can get 8,000 pounds of asphalt in there, a fair bit. We do have to go to Didsbury to get that, but that's not a far trip. We'd have to do that if we're getting hot asphalt anyway. Comes with a plate compactor, comes with a crane system, full 2 days staff on-site training, startup kit, tools, asphalt conditioner, 45-gallon drum of that, 2 propane tanks, and there's what they call a downtime eliminator parts kit that comes with it new. This is just a picture of a sidewalk repair, which is kind of typical. The first portion of the dirt that you're seeing is the sidewalk itself, but what it does is it attaches to the asphalt and can break away. These repairs normally, what I've seen this year, they have to put gravel, fill it in. We drive over the gravel for a lengthy period of time until we can get the contractors in at full. And basically at that point, they charge us for, even a small repair like this, $750. That's their minimum charge. We can probably do this, I would think, at even the rate of about $100 an hour with our staff, propane, etc. We could probably do about 7.5 times the amount of work that they would do for $750 as a minimum. This is kind of just some of the next slides I took of our current trail systems. Unfortunately, the snow got on the roads. I couldn't really show you a lot of cracks and potholes in the roads right now, but believe me, I've driven around the town of Olds many a times, and there is a lot of work to be done here. You can carry on. This cracking, for instance, on one of our trails is done, the trees grow roots. Can't stop that, but what we can do is go in there and actually turn that into a brand new path with this machine. And, if the roots do crack in a couple more years, we can go back and keep that asphalt lively for a long time. This is just another, this one here is kind of one that I'm not really fond of. It's a safety tripping hazard. If you're riding your bike and you hit that thing with your front wheel, you're going to go for a flip. I'd like to be able to have that equipment to fix these type of situations and problems. Frost cracking in the wintertime, it's inevitable. When things can move, that's what happens, and the asphalt underneath, or above, cracks. That's something else this machine can fix fairly quickly, 20 minutes. So it's basically costs. So a small patch, right now with a contractor, there's a minimum of $750. The equipment, like I said, is about 7.5 times more productive for the same amount of money. Hot mix is needed. It's half the price of cold mix. I know asphalt pricing is going up next year. We've already had the word from our contractors and letting us know that those prices are going to go high. Oil's going up, so oil goes up, of course, so does the asphalt. Contractor pricing is also going to increase. And one really nice thing about this is the millings that we do get off the highways and jobs, we can actually utilize some of those millings in here for nothing. Just wanted to show you a before and after picture of what this machine's work looks like. So you could have multiple cracks and bumps and, in a parking lot as this is. And it can turn out and actually turn out a fairly decent parking lot. Nice part about it, it does seal all the cracks immediately as well. So 2 staff members to operate. The unit itself, when it's actually doing it, has to sit for approximately 20 minutes. Once it's done its 20 minutes, you move it over to the next spot. While it's heating up during that 20 minutes, you're making the repair and compacting the first patch. So it's something that you can utilize, and you don't have to sit there and wait for it all the time, just, while it's warming up the very first patch. Allows for multi-section repairs, so we can do a fairly big length of asphalt and repair bigger areas. Just sort of a picture of how it works. The worker is kind of doing the first part while the machine is warming up the second section. If you do note on the asphalt itself, you can see what kind of repair they're fixing. It's sort of a completely cracked asphalt surface. Basically, the last step of the repair is just a compaction. So, if we've put a bit of new asphalt in here with the conditioner, there's no bumpy surfaces. It creates a completely smooth ride on the roadways, and on the trails it'd be a non-trip hazard. And it's true recycling. A lot of times we get wrapped up in recycling, but this is true recycling. We're using the old mix, we're using the old roadways, we're using the old millings. It can extend the life of roadways and trails. Basically, a flat new surface, it's drive ready in 20 to 30 minutes, so it cools that quickly as well. Cold mix, I just mentioned again, it's high cost, doesn't last. This will reduce costs. I did actually do some calling to different areas. I know the city of Edmonton has 5. They're planning on buying more. I've called some smaller areas and stuff too as well, and they do like this system. It's working well for them. One of the examples I got was they had a $3,600 contractor job. They bought one of these machines and did it for about $700. Once again, this is just sort of to get across the point about a manhole repair. This is a bit of a larger repair, but that machine can do that quite quickly. So potholes, cracks in pavements, utility digs, park walkway paths, valve replacements and cuts, manhole replacements and cuts, small paving beside new sidewalks. I find that to be a fairly major issue for us, tripping hazards and parking, cutting tires down, different things like that. And we can also use milling asphalt can be saved and reused. That's all I've got for you. Once again, I apologize for being a little nervous first time talking to council, but we'll get over that.
Wow, you did an excellent job. Good on you. You could just stay put if you like, and
Sure.
council have any questions. I'll start with the photo of the parking lot patching. I'm going to use the example of a co-op or any mall in town, because I noticed they're all the parking lines exactly. Would that be an opportunity for revenue, perhaps, for the town of Olds, if we had the ability to be able to do that for them? Is that possible? I don't know if we...
I do believe we can probably do that. We could set something up like that. I think that's something we talk about maybe in the level of service and when the equipment is approved, et cetera.
I would see that they're always in need of things like that, and I'm sure we could, because not saying partner, but being the availability of being in the town of Olds and being here for them, we could probably make a nice little opportunity out of that. And then also the Parkway and Pass. I really like your photos and the idea of knowing that the seniors who walk frequently with their walkers on there, and I have seen people trip, including myself, we could fix that at our own discretion and at our own time. So that was a very good sharing on that part. Council, questions? I'm sorry, Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Your Worship. Have you done any studies or asked the question of the lifespan of a machine like this?
I have looked into it. There are, as far as the trailer, it's a trailer. The hot box is just a diesel-generated flow-through, heating system. So all those parts are replaceable. The longevity of the machine, they don't feel that there was any issue getting 20, 25 years out of this machine all day long. In the infrared, they have sort of a fiber-type material to give you the infrared heat, and that's fully replaceable too as well.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a couple questions. One perhaps for Director Linderman. So I assume we can expect these savings, because they are seeming to be some significant savings, those will be built in and reflected when we look at the full budget in April of 2022?
Yes, by that time, we should have enough information to reflect that in our operating budget.
Perfect. And
Can I just add to that? It won't be all savings because we'll be able to do more with this machine than we have, so we'll be actually having more coverage. So it'll be a combination of savings and actually having a greater product for our community.
perfect.
Did you still have your hand, Director Wagstaff?
No, the CAO mentioned the comment I wanted to make.
I'll just let Councillor Wilson finish his, and then we'll go to Councillor Daly.
No, that's great. Yeah, I look forward to that analysis of incremental work and cost versus the cost savings. And my other question for Dale is, what do we expect for maintenance costs, and is there any other equipment we would need to buy to make this work?
When I did package this together, I did package it with pretty much everything I think that we needed on the trailer. You know, the compactor's a necessity, the drums, even the sprayer and stuff like that are all included. So as far as maintenance on the machine, you know, it's if you were to do a complete overhaul, it was put to me that a complete overhaul on that machine could be $15,000. But it's not, I didn't find that to be on the high end. Once again, if we do get quite a few years of use out of it before we do replace anything or do a major overhaul, I think we'd probably get, the feeling I got from them, of course, without having those full stats, was that, you know, the machine itself is feasible.
Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Your Worship. In your business plan for this machine, could you elaborate on the human resources needed to operate this machine right from start of fixing a pothole to the completed product?
So human resources, how I envision this machine would be, we would probably have an operator, you know, just an operator, one position, to be able to manage it, to be able to make sure that we're, you know, heading to the right spots and to manage that. The second person on board would be just either a summer student. When things do slow down a bit before our snowfall in the winter, we could have a second staff member fill in that position.
Just to follow up with that.
Oh, supplemental, go ahead, Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just thinking of the preparation that goes in before the machine arrives on site, is there a crew that has to happen there? Just looking at, let's say, a pothole repair, does that pothole need a certain amount of time to be prepared as far as cutouts, cleanouts, compaction, stuff like that before the machine ever gets there?
Basically, that crew would work as doing that, so they would come in. As I mentioned, the big item here is that we used to have to blow all the dirt out of them. We used to have to, you know, melt all the snow or ice out of them. With this machine, you lay that infrared down on there, it's done. We're just spraying it with the conditioner. It just takes a lot of those steps out and allows us to continue.
Thank you.
Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I just have a question also with regards to human resources. So you did say that there was 2-day full training. And how many staff do you figure that, I get from you that there'd probably be 2 people operating this piece of equipment, but I hope that we're going to be training more staff to do it so that in case somebody's away or we've got people to fill in. What's your thinking on how many people will be trained?
I believe what I would do is set up with the whole public works staff and may even draw a couple from some of the other departments for over coverage and have them all involved in the training of this piece of equipment, especially parks because of the fact that we're going to be doing trails, etc.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Any further questions? All right, Director Linderman, continue.
I will let Dale now wanted to present also on the 1-ton truck and trailer. Or, sorry, Director.
Thank you very much, and well done. No nervousness at all.
Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to, I'm a little bit taller, so I might need to put the mic a little closer, although not quite as tall as Dale. Thank you again, Council, for the opportunity to present the information on the one-ton truck and trailer. Next, yeah. Number one, our fleet has an average age of approximately 9 years old, so we do have an aging fleet. The other factor to consider in the town in fleet replacement is not just the age, but also the number of hours. So many of the units have a high number of hours on them, which do include idling hours. The reason for idling hours is to maintain power to the unit. On many of our jobs, we use our four-way flashers and also emergency lights. Many of our utility digs are done in minus temperatures so that we can keep staff comfortable, not to spend a lot of time on our entire fleet, but we do want to emphasize the number of units that do need replacing are currently at 13 units. That's according to our fleet assessment table. At a conservative average price of $50,000 per unit, that's a total of $650,000, and that is only to bring our fleet up to current par. That does not consider growth within the community and the possible requirements into the future. Also to emphasize, we do have units right now that are approximately 15 years old, almost 16 years old, just slightly under 16 years. Next. I want to spend a little bit more time on why the town would need a one-ton truck and trailer unit. For the utilities department, we normally haul backhoes, buckets, valves, manholes, often fencing items, are all items that we need to bring to the job site. We take multiple trips currently, attempting to stuff everything onto one smaller type trailer. If we were to load on one sizable trailer, we could start the job sooner, and we can end the job sooner as well. For parks, we move around the Genie. We move mowers, we move as well backhoe, similar to utilities. A heavy-duty trailer will give us the capability of mobilizing ancillary equipment throughout the community. Much of our ancillary equipment, like our Genie, is slow-moving equipment. That equipment's also being mobilized from 70th. So that's a little bit of a different area than from downtown, which was a little more centralized, although now we have the space to do it. A lot of this ancillary equipment is having to be mobilized to the downtown core and back. So in terms of a replacement Genie would cost anywhere estimated values about approximately $87,000 for a Genie. Moving ancillary equipment like that is very, very costly. It creates a lot of wear and tear on the bearings, the motor, hydraulics, and even costly tires. And again, a really good example of this is recently we decorated the downtown, and we had to take that Genie across town. We're going downtown, mobilizing that ancillary equipment, and having to make a return trip to 70th. In summary, that can create premature wear on a lot of that ancillary equipment. Next. Our recommendation for council is to approve a one-ton truck and trailer. That can begin our transition into greater efficiencies with not only our own equipment, but also our ancillary equipment. So in a nutshell, reducing wear and tear, efficient use of staff time, reducing costly maintenance items on ancillary equipment is why we're recommending a one-ton truck and trailer. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Greco. Is that?
Yeah, Rico.
Very good.
Well, thank you very much, through you to Greco. Actually, I really had just have a comment, and that is I do think that this is probably the time for this, especially with us moving over to 70th Avenue. We've all heard the stories of the mower brigade coming down the 70th Avenue, and I've actually heard from staff who've talked to me saying that how much time is being consumed by them driving lawnmowers from over there to across town to where they're needed. So if we're moving pieces of equipment, we're making more efficiencies of our staff time and lessening the wear and tear. It sounds like a good idea to me. So I'm actually in favor of this for a change. This is probably the only vehicle I've been in favor of in the last 4 years. However, I'm going to oppose the half-ton when it comes up, and we'll have a conversation about that.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I have just more of a general comment. I'll make it now, maybe it should be more appropriate with a half-ton discussion, whatever, but I support your comments, Director Greco, relative to a fleet management plan, and I'll wait again with bated breath. I don't know if that happens as part of the service level review and or asset management and the fleet review, because when I took a quick look at the fleet inventory assessment, if I can tell between a pickup and a half-ton versus a working truck, I think we've got about 22 trucks on the fleet list. So I'd be very interested to see what a needs assessment looks like as far as our pickups and vehicles. Do we have enough? And I'll put the word out there, I'm coming from less is more scenario. So I'd be very interested to see what a review looks like from a needs assessment. When I look at this again, we've got vehicles assigned to P&D, which I assume is planning and development for one, manager is one, director is one, CS is one. So again, I just end with, I'd really like to see some type of a needs assessment and review, whether that's tied in with the service level agreement, asset management, to see if we are properly and right sized as far as utility pickup trucks. I'm not talking about the work trucks and the Sanders and the graders. I'm simply talking about, I guess, for the most part, the half tons. So.
I'd like you to respond, and then Councillor Cummings.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Wilson. With Dale and myself being fairly new, it's important that we analyze what equipment we have. I concurrently agree, less is more. And it's also taking a look at what jobs we do around the community and basically how we can use our resources efficiently. Instead of adding more units, that's not always the case. In the case of the one-ton truck and trailer, it's more of using and maximizing our resources efficiently throughout the community. So we will be putting a more in-depth analysis of not just how many units we need, but what are the applications of our units.
I think we all do. Thank you very much. Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to the Director. Director Greco, you had mentioned, I think, in one of our discussions on the budget and this case that you put forward for the truck, that this 1 ton is actually replacing a half-ton. Is that correct?
I can't answer that one for sure. I might turn to Director Wagstaff for that.
That is correct. So if this was approved by purchasing a 1 ton, one of the half tons that's at the bottom of the list that needs to come off would be what the replacement vehicle would be for.
Thank you.
Blatz?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you then, perhaps either to Director Greco or maybe Director Wagstaff. So when these vehicles come off the bottom portion of it, do we hang on to these vehicles, or do we, just refresh my memory, do we sell them? Or what do we do with these vehicles? Do we have, like, I don't want to see our operations center become a parking lot for old dilapidated vehicles, quite frankly. So I'd like to know, refresh my memory, I can't recall what we do.
We do dispose of vehicles when they come off the fleet, yes. So either sales, when they're half-ton trucks, we put them to auction.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, I believe that would be part of the report that we would bring back to council as well. It's important, part of what we do is the disposal of units. And there's a number of different avenues that I think we should be evaluating. One of those would be, gov deals. We can take a look at disposing of vehicles through gov deals. That way we need to evaluate the entire process and make sure it's a fair and reasonable approach to the disposal of all of our vehicles, especially from a financial perspective as well.
Councillor Blatz, go ahead.
Thank you for that information. I appreciate that. So when this analysis is done, and maybe perhaps CEO Merritt may have to answer this question, then when we have what we're going to do with vehicles, what we need, what the age is, all of the information, will this be something we can make as a public document? Because perception is reality, and many of our residents are often critical and criticizing us that we have too many vehicles within the town of Olds. And if we have a full analysis of what they're used for, what's in our inventory and age and all of that, can this type of information become very public knowledge so that it gives all of our residents an indication of, what we have to face as far as buying and getting rid of?
Merritt?
We have made our inventory a public document, and it's available to the public, and it should be a public document. This is basically what the taxpayers are paying for us to do our job to achieve the service level, so that would make nothing but sense to make sure that the public sees that we have the vehicles we need to do the job in town, and if the service levels go up or down, we're going to have to make adjustments based on presenting it to council and getting approval of council.
Supplemental, Councillor Blatz?
Yes, thank you. So whereabouts is that document found now? Because I kind of looked the other day, but I obviously wasn't looking in the right area of our webpage, or our website, so.
I'm not sure if it's on our website. I could double check that. It was presented at a PMP in the past, and I think at one of our previous budgets. I'm not sure it was last year's budget or the year before. So yes, we can certainly make that available.
Thank you. I think that'd be more beneficial because I do recall part of this process, but I think for people that want to have an opportunity to look it up, then it should be just there for them.
Thank you. Good point. You don't see anything else around the table. Would you like to continue? Are you done?
Done, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Director Linderman?
Thank you. So as I mentioned earlier, we are still $95,000 over our MSI allocation, so I would like to look at that next. We do have a couple recommendations to balance MSI. So we were thinking we could reduce or remove the porta potty enclosures. We could reduce the trails network and/or reduce the wayfinding, just as a couple items to start off the conversation.
Have a tie, so we'll go Councillor Ryan and then Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I beat you, Wanda. I would like to talk about actually the half-ton. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this, and this is a $70,000 now. The price has gone up, and I voiced my concerns about this at priority policies and priorities meeting. With regards to the electric vehicle and going into a program that is still quite experimental as far as I'm concerned with regards to heavy loads for town vehicles being used, and I'm not sure exactly how much kind of a loading we would be doing for it. But here's a $70,000 savings here. We're adding a truck with regards to the 1 ton and taking a half ton off. So we're already putting on 1 vehicle, and now you're asking for 2, and this second one is electric, and frankly, there isn't any electric vehicles available, electric trucks available right now. I mentioned about Ford coming out with one in the springtime, and also concerned with regards to the charging and how much loads that we need for that. And there is a program that's going to come out for charging stations that would be a grant program. But here we are looking at something that is still in sort of the experimental stage. I think this is something that can come off, say, with 70,000, and now we're down to 25, being in a deficit. And I could also suggest other places. Sorry, you're shaking your head. That doesn't look good when you're shaking your head, Sheena.
I just wanted to note, so none of this is coming from MSI, so that wouldn't help our MSI being over.
Okay, well, I
Vehicles
thought it was
can't-
overall budget. So if you want to talk about just MSI, I would suggest the wayfinding would be something that I would take off. We've already gone through 3 successful years. This is closing down to the end of the program. We can even do half of what we have, or take the full thing off and park it for a year. But I think we could do that. I think Director Wagstaff made a very good point for the porta potty enclosures, and saying how they were very well received throughout the community. I don't know how many porta potty enclosures 50,000 covers, but maybe Director Wagstaff can speak to that.
Just a note, we are back to items on MSI.
We are, yeah.
Yes, we are. And I just wanted you to finish what you had to say. I was going to stop you, but anyways.
Yeah, no, wayfinding is MSI money.
That's correct. Did you have a point, Albert?
Yeah, I did want to speak about MSI and the wayfinding. I don't think we should stop wayfinding. I think cutting it in half would be okay, but we have had momentum in getting our town basically wayfound for all our residents, and I think if we stop doing that, that's losing momentum. We can slow it down. We have done this in the past, but to stop it for this year, I think would be a mistake.
Okay, we've got an order here. Is it supplemental to Mr. Merritt? Okay, I'll let Director Wagstaff and Councillor Platts.
And further to that, I just want to ensure that we're setting an expectation that's correct and realistic, that we're not nearing the end of the wayfinding implementation. What we are nearing the end of is the main vehicular wayfinding portion. That wayfinding implementation also entails pedestrian networking as well. So it was a comprehensive, 5-year plan when we initially started that. That is, at this point in time, because of some of the pieces that we've drawn out for fiscal reasons, we're probably still at a 5-year out plan before we would be completing it. And the other part to wayfinding is, as the community grows, there will be additional wayfinding needed with the growth.
Thank you, Councillor Platts.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I guess my question was going to be, with both the Trails Network and the wayfinding and the MSI that Director Linderman had said, if we reduce both of them to $110,000 for this year, that gives us $40,000 under Trails Network and $45,000 under, or even if we take it down to $100,000 for wayfinding, that's $55,000. That's our $95,000 right there. Almost. We're short a few dollars here and there, but so that I just wanted to know what the implications of that would look like to just make those simple changes right now.
Okay, we'll go with Director Wagstaff and then Councillor Ryan.
And Your Worship, I can answer, all 3 of those questions, the one about the porta potties and the wayfinding and the trails, with regards to reductions that could be possible for 2022. The porta potties themselves, with the capital detail sheet that's been included in the budget, each of those were about between 11 and 12,500. So whether they're single or double, it really is cost effective to do doubles because they're 12,500. A single is 11,000 each. That's the porta potties. With regards to the sorry, I hit something here and something else popped up. We took a look at what was in the budget for 2022 in the documents that were in the budget binders. And if we reduced 4 directional signs, that would move from 7 to 3. So that would leave a directional sign on 70th Avenue and a vehicular directional sign on 68th, just south of the new roundabout. Those 2 we would keep because they're new locations. Both of those were newly constructed, so we would look at adding signs there. And deferring the 4 vehicle signs that would be in the main core along Highway 27 on 67th and 65th Avenue. And leave the civic identifier for the library to replace the sign at the library. That would be the impact there, and that would be a savings of, I believe it was roughly $80,000. With regards to the trails, there were 3 areas proposed within the budget binder that we're looking at. A link between Highlands and Duncan Close, so across the tree reserve. A link between Imperial Loop and the sidewalk along 57th near the Catholic Church, so a link that would go in along there. And then a small patch of 30 meters just at the entrance to the tree reserve on the south side by Winter Drive. There's significant damage there along the trailway. Our recommendation would be to defer the link at Imperial along near the Catholic Church, and that would be a savings of $81,250. So those are the options that we were recommending to reduce each of those 2 budgets potentially.
Wow. That's good information. Councillor Cummings. Sorry, Councillor Ryan. Go ahead.
Thank you. Actually, Mayor Dahl, Director Wagstaff, I identified a couple of items that I was thinking about, but so just correct me if I'm wrong, Doug. So that would be Trails Network. You would reduce to what would be the dollar figure then there?
I don't know what the total dollar figure was, but on the trails, by not completing the link between the Imperial Loop and 57th Ave, that would be an $81,500 savings.
Wow, that's a good portion. Okay, thank you. But I was going to also bring up the cameras, and I know that's a small amount of only 6,000. However, I believe at the policy and priorities meeting we just had, we talked about the cameras, and I had made a suggestion about reviewing all of our cameras so that we get, because we need cameras elsewhere. We talked about them in Centennial Park. We've talked about them in other locations over at the Ops Center and whatnot. So I thought it would be more prudent to do a review of where we need cameras and how many cameras we need, and then look at a purchase that would be so that they're all the same cameras and we're not doing a stopgap measure, filling in one kind of camera here, another camera here. I think it'd be better to have it all cohesive, and then we know exactly we're all running with the same cameras, and that was my suggestion. So I don't know how the rest of council felt about it, but I just thought a review of what we need for cameras and how many we're going to need, because they're not just needed at the sports complex. Unless you could identify, Director Wagstaff, whether or not those cameras at the Sport Techs are for, specific, monitoring of some kind of safety over there, and we need them right away. In that case, leave them in, but I do think we should look at all the areas where we need cameras.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan, and you are correct. We did discuss that very thing in P&P, so I'm sure administration's already got that on the run. Did you want to, Mr. Merritt, and then Councillor Cummings?
Yes, we will be and have started the review of our camera system network to see where we can find efficiencies, where there's gaps, where there's maybe chance to drop a few cameras because of changes in locations and such. So that is underway, but I think it would be good to hear from Director Wagstaff if this $6,000 is dedicated to areas that are that need surveillance or whatever, just to make sure that we're not dropping something that should continue. And obviously, you would be looking at making sure those cameras would fit into a system into the future.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, safety is a priority, so if we need them for safety, then we definitely should look at those.
Thank you. We can move on then to Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Director Wagstaff. So the wayfinding reduction of $80,000 by removing those signs, is the aquatic center sign replacement part of the wayfinding system, or is that under a different budget line?
It's under a different budget line. That was actually in 2021's budget, so we'll be looking at deferring and carrying that forward. But that's a separate, that was only for the aquatic center and capital.
Thank you. After seeing that sign during the tour, I didn't want that one left out of anything at all. So just a follow-up then, if you don't mind, Mayor.
Are you talking about the lettering on the building?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cummings, go for it.
So with the one reduction in the pathway, reducing it to 81,000, reducing the budget amount for MSI by 81,000, we only require a reduction of 95,000. That's only another 16,000 to be taken out of somewhere else. If we reduce the wayfinding by $16,000, that'll only drop us by what, a sign or two, rather than the 7 I think you mentioned?
And the approach we took when we looked at the wayfinding, and when I say we, it was a discussion that we'd had with our engineer and director of operations. I was just being that baton switch in between the two to carry this forward as one of my final pieces. But what we looked at was the 4 signs that we reduced it by connect together. So if you're going to do one of those signs, you don't want to do all 4 of them. Otherwise, it kind of leaves some directional signage in limbo. That's why we didn't suggest a reduction of, say, down to 5 and only take out 2 signs. That those 4 do come together almost as a family package. So I wouldn't recommend adjusting it there. You might just have additional savings.
Are you done, Councillor Cummings? Yeah, go ahead. And then Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just so I can finish that train of thought then. So if we, and I appreciate the breakdown by job, because it's a lot easier for us to say we can't cut $20,000 out of the 150 for trails. It makes no sense. So that makes a lot of sense to me. So if we reduce that one trail and then we also reduce the wayfinding, all we're doing is recapturing some money on that MSI that can be moved forward. And then we don't have to make any reductions anywhere else in the MSI grant money, from what I understand. So I appreciate that conversation. Thank you.
Very good. I'm sure you've got that down, and we'll go through Councillor Ryan at this point then. Did you want to answer that? Okay. Councillor Ryan.
I took that as a statement versus the question.
Sometimes he does have an answer. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. I was going to point out that any money that we would save here would just carry forward, and we could have the 54,000 in MSI going forward to the following year.
Okay, any further comments? Good discussion. Director Lindeman?
I just want to confirm with Director Wagstaff then, so that leaves trails at 70,000 for 2022 and wayfinding at 85,000.
I will trust the Director of Finance's math.
You can trust her.
Okay, so that leaves us with $54,000 surplus in MSI, which again can be carried forward to 2023 then. Were there any other items that?
So Ryan.
Okay, now I can talk about the half-ton truck. I'm going back to that because, again, I've already said, but also I've mentioned this in the past, and of course, Councilor Blatz is probably going to roll her eyes because she's heard it a million times. I think we need to be a little bit more efficient on how we're using our vehicles. Again, I'm going to say we have a new director in operations. We have parks trucks that sit there in the wintertime. They're not as utilized as heavily. as operations would use their vehicles. And I think that could be a rotation of vehicles. Also, I think we need to look at, possible leasing of vehicles, doing buybacks and things like that, that we can use to replenish our inventory. And I also want to point out that right now, I mean, as we all know, the vehicles are in short supply. And I would think that when you go and sell those half-ton trucks that are 2006 that we think are past their prime, I'm sure you're going to get a good amount of money for them, because I see them on buy and sell, and they're selling for a good price. So I think that there's opportunities. I think we should just park this half-ton, take it off the list. It's an electric vehicle. I don't think we're quite ready for it, and certainly the technology out there is not quite ready for it either.
You, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with Councillor Ryan about the inopportune time it would be to purchase a half-ton electric truck. That being said, I'm aware that the federal government, 3 provinces so far, have mandated the use of electrical vehicles and the reduction of diesel and gas-powered vehicles. And Alberta, although we're a little slower to do that sort of thing, we're going to do it eventually. And I'd hate to be stuck down the road in 10 years or so where there's a mandate that all of our vehicles be replaced electrical. So I'm not opposed to the purchase of an electrical vehicle and the start of that process now. There are much more tried and true electrical vehicles that we can replace our vehicle fleet with rather than a half-ton. I believe Councillor Ryan has already mentioned that there are very few options, if any, for a pickup truck right now. Certainly not a work-style pickup truck rather than a recreational truck. I think that we need to focus on replacing our vehicles with electrical vehicles as we move forward. This just may be the wrong time to replace it with a half-ton truck, considering the lack of knowledge on how a service truck can be used as an electrical vehicle rather than a commuter truck, which I see most of the electrical vehicles right now are commuter vehicles, not work vehicles. So maybe we can refocus this idea of electrical replacements with some of the smaller SUVs or cars that we have in the fleet, like other towns have done, to test out the idea and the concept of electrical vehicles, to learn about it rather than to do something as experimental as a pickup truck. So I'm not for the expenditure of the pickup truck at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just be very brief. Yeah, I don't support at this time the acquisition of a pilot half-ton electrical truck. I do support the green initiatives. As Councillor Cummings said, I don't think this is necessarily the right time, and particularly given Director Grayco's deliverable relative to a needs assessment, a fleet assessment. I'd prefer to wait and see what that comes back with as far as recommendations and the number of units and everything, and go from there. And we can put it back on the agenda for some time in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. It's good discussion around the table. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would just like to agree that the electrical truck, I don't believe the technology is there yet for a commercial application, as Councillor Cummings has indicated, as well as Councillor Ryan. And we don't have the infrastructure in place to accommodate this truck. And I just feel that we should just, as Councillor Ryan says, park this idea until we get more information and the industry actually builds more technology, not only in the vehicle but also in the charging system. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. We've got Councillor Blatz and then Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Director Grieco. How soon do you think you're going to have this analysis done as far as what the fleet's going to need? Would we have it by service level review in early 2022? And at that time, supplementary to that, then to Director Linderman, if something needed to come back as far as a replacement half-ton or vehicle at that time, would that be a spring adjustment, budget adjustment item as well?
Yes, so it would come back as a spring budget adjustment
Okay,
item.
thank you.
Yeah, and to answer your question, Councillor Blatz, we would have a full report for discussion at service level.
Perfect, thank you so very much.
It's good information as well. Councillor Walsh.
I think my question has been answered. That was like exactly what I was going to ask, is there still a need for a half-ton? But having said that, I just remember 5 years or so ago at FCM, I had a long discussion with people who sold service vehicles as electric vehicles, and it's more advanced than what I'm hearing here. So just a thought.
You. Anyone else around the table would like to speak? I like the conversation and dialogue you've just shared, and I tend to agree that with the past 2 conventions that we were at in regards to great dialogue with fellow colleagues, I would also agree it would be a good timing to let this park for a brief time until we get the full study on whether it would work for our municipality. So if you need, do you need any further information? There's 5 now that are saying they would like to see it come back. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
I have removed it from the current budget. Is there any other items that council would like to discuss? So the changes made today is the half-ton electric vehicle has been removed for 70,000. The trails network was reduced to 70,000, and the wayfinding was reduced to 85,000. So the new 2022 capital total is $3,819,500.
Thank you, Director Linderman. I am now looking for a motion on the floor that the capital budget in the amount of $3,819,500 be approved as presented. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Your Worship. I so move that the 2022 capital budget in the amount of $3,819,500 be approved as presented. And
As presented, okay? Any further comments before I call the vote? Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Now, item 4, multi-year capital plan. Director Linderman.
Thank you. We are almost there. All right, so next we have our long-term capital plan. It is the 2023 to 2032 long-term capital plan at a total of $46,384,500. So this 10-year plan gets modified and updated annually and forms the basis of the upcoming year's capital plan. I'm not going to go through each item in detail, but a few of the more significant items that council should be aware of are the South Reservoir relining in 2024, the planned fire truck purchases in 2027 and 2029, and the North Reservoir replacement in 2029. If we look at the bottom of the plan on page 95 of your agenda, we see the total spending and funding sources by year. So as you can see, spending is fairly consistent across the years with the exception of 2029. Moving down a bit further, we see that MSI is in a deficit position. When we get to these years, decisions would have to be made to defer projects or fund in a different manner. The MSI dollar value allotted to each year is the estimated allocation that the provincial government provided to us for 2023. As I did present last week, MSI will be ending in 2023 with the local government fiscal framework coming in 2024. At this time, no guidelines for funding or funding models have been set for this program. So the red area in the mid-page represents our long-term debt. In my presentation last Monday, there was a slide on debt projections. Mentioned in there was an increase in debt for years 2024 and 2029. At this time, we are only anticipating these 2 instances where debt may be needed. Moving down to our reserves, we will continue to put a portion of amortization into reserves annually through our operating budget. As you can see from the totals, at the end of 10 years, we have only decreased our reserves by $176,700. And I would open up to any questions on the long-term plan.
Oh, she was a little bit fast there. Did we catch that? Okay, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the 2 fire truck purchases, or the fire truck purchases, are those replacements or anticipated growth needs?
They are replacements, but I'll let Director Andrew talk to it.
Yeah, so we do have the life cycle replacement schedule in place for our fire apparatus. And part of how that's determined is the fire underwriter survey requires that our frontline pumper truck in the municipality has to be less than 15 years old in order to keep the municipality's fire insurance rates at the levels that they are. Otherwise, the risk level increases and then everybody pays more. The reason why we have two trucks similar in age is that we purchased a pumper truck and an aerial ladder truck at the same time. They were both demo units and bought at a substantial discount in price because they were those demos. And one was a little bit older than the other, but the warranty and everything on it was given. And so, yeah, with the inflation and costs, they are very large ticket items. And again, they're typically a 15 to 20 year apparatus, 15 years frontline service and another 5 as a secondary.
Yes, supplemental, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I haven't had an opportunity to read the entirety of the fire master plan. In its projections, did it project any increased need due to increase of size of service area or size of population or buildings or anything like that within this 10-year time frame?
So in the long-term capital budget, you will notice that at the 10-year mark on our budget that we do list a satellite fire station. And that is an acknowledgement that if there is economic recovery and explosive growth in the town with the new annexation and other variables, that would be something that we would have to consider, but only when the metrics require us to address it, being that our response times are longer than what acceptable community standards would be. So right now, there is no anticipation that at 10 years we would have to meet any new growth aspects. But again, if something happens to the exception where there's lots of activity, then we would have to address it. And we would suggest that then at 10 years, it moves down to 9 years to 8 years. And then that's when we'd have to look at funding it. But to the time being, no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question for the Finance Director. Could you talk again to the implications of that ever-increasing MSI shortfall and what that means?
So at this time, we've over-committed to MSI within the years, and we would just need to look, when we are in those years, our needs versus wants for those items. And as I said, right now, it's just an estimate of using our current MSI allocation. We have no idea what the LGFF allocations will look like, and so that could hopefully decrease that deficit.
Okay, or as you said, look at reprioritizing the
Yeah.
projects and or finding funding somewhere else.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Very good. There's no further questions for Director Linderman? I'm looking at you, you're quiet. All right, Director Lindemann, move forward.
So now we would just need a motion accepting that as information.
Very good. I'd ask for a motion then for our fourth item now for the multi-year capital plan. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move that the 2023 to 2032 multi-year capital plan be approved as information.
If there's no further questions, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And thank you. You've done a very good job, and thank you very much for the dialogue around the table from all involved. And now our added item 6D, outdoor rinks. Who would like to speak to that? Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Ryan?
Thank you very much, Mayor Dole. Yes, I just wanted to bring this up because Director Wagstaff had mentioned coming forward with for the outdoor rinks. I noticed the other night that our fire department has been out there busy flooding. And so I just wanted to know we could be presented with that plan, especially with, coming up to Christmas holidays and people being out and about and probably wanting to use them. So I just wanted to bring that issue up.
Thank you. I am with the understanding that Mr. Director Wagstaff is willing to move forward with that request.
We, both Director Andrew, provide an update with the logistics. Both operations are working together. Director is working on the promotional side. So we have been waiting. This morning we did bring live the web page back into season, so it is up to date, and it's indicating that ice surfaces are being built and that people are to watch for announcements of surface openings. Ice thickness on the ponds is still unsafe to do so, it's unsafe to go on to, and that outdoor ice surfaces are coming back. Watch for details. With that, I will ask Director Andrew to give a bit of an update on where we're at on the fever of building these rinks.
Yes, thanks, Director Wagstaff, through to the chair. We are currently actively working on rinks, so we've started the Deer Meadow rink last week because the surface is already prepped, so it was cleared by operations, and so we've started flooding, and it's been interesting because already I saw kids out using it, even though the quality is pretty poor at this time, but who am I to say no? Although we do chase them away when we start spraying with our hoses. It's amazing how many kids don't want us to be there when we do that. But anyway, yeah, it's in progress. The other locations have been marked, and I believe operations through Operations Manager Rankel is being prepped as we speak, and we are improving the process from last year in the fact that we are going to lay down a poly plastic which helps retain the water better than last year, so we'll actually see a decrease in the amount of water used to create these rinks is the intent, and or the quality of the ice surface will be improved. So that plastic is like a agricultural grade plastic, which also doesn't kill the grass, is the other component of this. And we have been informed that that plastic should be ready by Wednesday. So hopefully this week we'll see some major movements towards the basic construction of them, and the operation, barring Mother Nature not cooperating, will be right ready around the Christmas season. And that has been the one factor for us, is that up till this point it's very sketchy for us when the temperature only hovers around zero. For us to start a rink, we end up creating a bit of a slough. So if we can get some sustained -10 temperatures, we would be in great shape. So fingers crossed, Christmas break, you're hopefully skating.
Thank you. I just love watching small kids skate around on bumpy ice because that's all we could afford when we were kids. Director Wagstaff?
And just two final updates. We are going to be using social media as our primary push on the rinks. And that was primarily because as we looked at last week, we weren't sure if that temperature of below -10 to above 0 was going to sustain itself, and then we'd make a commitment that we couldn't live up to because of Mother Nature. But we do have 11 outdoor ice surface locations. Another one was added this morning. Both the fire department and operations went and took a look at Rotary Athletic Park and the grassed area of Olds Minor Soccer Green, and adding one there. So we are looking at Centennial Park, Neil Leatherdale Park, Richards Crescent, Rotary Athletic Park, Hartman Green. These are all also on the website, so you don't need to. Deer Meadow School, Holy Trinity School, Olds College at the tennis courts, which will not have a tentative opening into mid-July, and we've been working with the Recreation Department at Olds College on that one. And then we have the 3 ponds that are storm retention ponds: Winter Lake, Breagle Pond, and Vistas Pond. So those 3 are the ones that the fire department have been checking, and they've still indicated as last week that they would not recommend anyone going on the ice at this point in time. They are use at your own risk, all of the areas. We do recommend helmets be worn, but it's not mandatory. And that we ask that people keep their pets off the ice and pick up any garbage that they may leave behind or others have left behind if they can do it proactively. And finally, we just want to do a thank you as we are looking for some volunteers to clear the snow after a snowfall that would allow for users to use it more easily. Then they only have to clear the amount of snow that they might grind up from the ice and allow for the flooding. So we do have some groups that have already come forward, and we're still looking for other volunteers that would look after, kind of be the ice elf, or another sort of, I think they're calling them snow shovel extraordinaires. So we look forward to this season.
I was hoping you would call them kids. That's what we had to do, is clear the snow so we could skate. Nevertheless, thank you very much for that information. If there's...
Sorry, Your Worship, there is one other point I wanted to make, because you will see some benches at each of the skating sites. So operations staff constructed some benches. They took the lumber and put them together, and so that was one of the pieces of feedback we had last year. It'd be nice to have a little bench at these sites. And we're also providing at least 2 shovels at each site, so that volunteers or those that are skating on them can shovel off some of the snow themselves.
You're going to spray paint them Town of Olds.
Done and stained.
Just please, and update me on with the skate at your own risk. Each site has skate at your own risk signs, or is this just on our website?
We're also working on some signage. So at the 2 of the 3 ponds last year, there were signs that were put up, just indicating that individuals that it's at their own risk. They are storm ponds. So we have those signs made up. We're also making up some custom signs that would acknowledge the contributions to the Olds Fire Department, the Town of Olds staff, and FCSS funding for, there's going to be some programming done around these in January and February as well, around the Great Neighbors program. So those signs will acknowledge that, as well as just indicate that when you are skating on these surfaces, you are doing so at your own risk, that we recommend wearing a helmet.
Finally, one more question. How many of these 11 rinks are lit? Do they have lighting, or are majority of them dark?
10 of the 11 are dark. The one at the college, we're still working with the college to see what the logistics are about having the lighting of the tennis courts come on, but that isn't confirmed yet.
Interesting. Very good. If there's no further questions, Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question for Director Wagstaff. Do we designate any of these sites as pleasure skate only, or it's a free-for-all, open for any type of use?
None of them have boards, but they are open for whatever use that the users show up with. So we haven't designated any of them stick-free, if for that reference. So, small games of shinny, can occur if they're drop-in, but there are no boards.
The kids will dictate that. Thank you very much for your information sharing. I'd like a motion, please, to accept for information outdoor rinks report. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. I also wanted to thank Director Andrew and Director Wagstaff for their report and for going forward with this. It's nice to see that they're adding one over at the Rotary Park, because we had talked about that last year. And I trust that the one at the college is actually going to be, you're looking at it for mid-January, not mid-July.
If I said July, I was just looking forward to an opening for summer, but yes, that would be mid-January.
I thought you were all laughing at me for a reason. I thought, no, he did say July. Okay.
Yeah, you did say July. Thank you, Director Wagstaff. And it's nice to be able to look at something over at the college, so that the college students can actually use something right on site. So that's really it's great news to hear over there. I'd like to just put a motion on the floor to accept the report as information. And
Outdoor rinks.
And to thank both Director Andrew and Director Wagstaff for their information.
And I would like to note just on that the one at the college, Olds College, recreation department was open, that they wanted this for both students and public, that it was going to be something that they were going to welcome to the public, and they have arranged students to be the ice elves of that area, but that they wanted to be clear that this was open to the public as a relations for an area to skate.
That's great partnership. Director Greco?
Yeah, and I would just like to emphasize my thankfulness to Dale and his team for, I think when you see these benches, you'll be very, very impressed. So kudos to Dale and the team for putting the benches together, and also for maintaining the rinks. There's obviously garbage and some additional maintenance throughout the community with the rinks. I love skating, and thanks to Dale and his crew for making that happen.
That's great news. Councillor Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Dolfer, and through to you, to Director Greco. Sorry, I forgot about that, because I did hear that Director Andrews said about operations being involved, so I apologize for missing that out on that. Thank you, but yeah, good work all the way around for everybody to do this. I think it's a great item to add to the community, and certainly to have 11 rinks, that's terrific.
Excited for it. It just really brings back memories. So we have a motion on the floor to accept for information the outdoor rinks report. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. All right. Item 7A, page 96, reports from council, boards, and committees. We do have the reports that are in our agenda. And this time, thank you very much. Have a good evening. Merry Christmas. We'll go around the table. I think this time, well, Councillor Cummings' report is in here, but you're more than welcome to say something to it as well. Let's start with, well, I don't know, let's start with Dan and work around, and then we'll work around.
Thank you, Your Worship. So as November 25th, I attended the orientation meeting for FCSS, and introductions were made, and a new chair was elected. Jamie Redgewell was elected chair, and vice chair is Angie Durant. And yeah, it was about an hour-long meeting, and very, very informative as far as we went through purpose and scope and those types of things, and kind of the process going forward for the year. And then other than that, of course, attending the Olds Fiber Limit board meetings, and also board meetings here in council as well. But so far, I've only had one committee meeting as of such. Olds Chamber of Commerce is meeting next week, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cummings, your choice.
Thank you, Your Worship. So that report is actually from the last councillor report that we did. So new stuff that we've done today, or this reporting period, joined the Mountain View Regional Waste Management Commission. Sorry, that's a really long acronym. For their first meeting there, a new president or a new chairman was elected, whose name escapes me right now, but I'll report that later to council. Other than a short period of orientation, there wasn't really much that went on in that meeting, organizationally wise, other than the promise of a tour of the dump in a non-smelly month. I also attended the Red Deer Regional Municipal Users Group, Red Deer Rivers Municipal User Group in Drumheller. They had a very thorough orientation on the history of the program, as well as the purpose of the program. We talked quite extensively about the possibility of damming the southern half, or building a water reservoir in the southern half of the southern end of the river just before it goes into Saskatchewan, and some rules and regulations about that water use and how it can be used, specifically to our area, being one of the fastest growing population areas in Alberta right now, on this river specifically, and how much of the waterway is still accessible for use. The government has limited the amount of water that can be brought out of the river for use or consumption. We're less than half of that stage now for our portion of the Red Deer River, so we're pretty happy there. Other than that, I attended the Age Friendly Initiative at the Legion, put on by the I'm going to get this wrong, the Community Lifestyles Committee of the Olds Institute and their age-friendly subcommittee. It was very informative. We worked together with a lot of people from a lot of different groups. Many of us from council were there, as well as councillors from the outlying communities, as well as staff from some of the outlying communities. So a lot of good ideas came about there. Hopefully we can put some of that in use here in Olds and in our region together as a transportation plan for public transportation. And that was about it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Your Worship. I attended the Rural Municipalities Association Conference in November, along with Mayor Dahl, and I did the Municipal Planning Commission orientation, followed by doing a facilities tour with the rest of council. I attended and chaired the P&P meeting and regular council meetings. We also had a police advisory committee meeting that we did, and elected a chair who will be Marianne Overwater. And I also attended the Age Friendly Initiative conference, and that's pretty much all I've done.
Thank you very much. We'll run around to Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few items that I attended. The Cape had their fall AGM December 1. It was a virtual meeting. Chief Leonard standing on the road of the Montana First Nation performed the invocation. They reviewed the Cape vision and mission, focusing on innovation and prosperity and achieving sustainable economic development and open, inclusive communities. They touched on their 2021 projects, which included BRE, so business retention, investment and expansion, economic development, and rural and indigenous broadband. They had a few guest speakers talking to, again, growth strategy going forward, the workforce strategy around an aging demographic and an aging workforce, retaining the workforce, training the workforce, and the impacts of a virtual world with technology. And they also touched on the transportation corridor and supply chain management issues. The keynote speakers were three individuals who focused on Indigenous relationships and the culture. And interestingly, one of the individuals, Mitch, and I don't know if I'll have the pronunciation right, but Mitch Wincentalio of Devon was actually an employee of the town. He's their Indigenous Engagement Coordinator. Amy Movald is a businesswoman within Devon, and then Sandy Boucher, who's an inspirational speaker from Ontario. And the three of those individuals each gave a presentation on Indigenous relationships and culture. And probably the one, well, there were many items that made an impression on me. One comment, though, was, again, in terms of that relationship, and that was join them versus just simply inviting them. So that kind of resonated with me a bit. And then finally, I attended the Christmas Palooza because it was baking. And that was a fundraiser and a bake sale put on by the Olds High School and their leadership group and Luann Stachek. And it was a success. Talking with them afterwards, they raised $2,000 for the Christmas Angels, so a very worthwhile event and a worthwhile cause. And I won a $40 gift card, so I don't know if I'm in a pecuniary interest violation or not, but in a random raffle draw, I won a $40 gift card. All right, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm sure you spent a lot to get that. Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, the few events that I attended, I drove with Councillor Cummins to the Red Deer Municipal Users Group. Again, it's a group that does a lot of good work, you know, for 25 cents per capita. Too bad a lot of our organizations couldn't operate at that level, but it serves 45 or 54 communities on the Red Deer River. So been on that before, and it was nice to see. Actually, Keith Ryder, it was his last day, and he is the executive director. So it was nice to have a chat with Keith before he finished his career with the Red Deer Municipal Users Group. So, again, the facilities tour, I participated in that. First board that I'm on, I had an opportunity to attend on the December 10th, the South Red Deer Regional Wastewater Commission. Councillor Blatz attended with me as the alternate to that. I also got appointed as member of the Operations and Tech Committee of that organization. But again, it's quite interesting to see the improvements in the operation of that system compared to when I sat on that board 4 years ago. And I think they've made great strides to improving that system, and I was quite impressed with what was there. Having said that, you know, we're still price takers when it comes to the city of Red Deer determining the price of sewage, you know, our electrical contracts. Again, we have no control over that. The only thing we have control over is the amount of chemicals used, and they work hard at reducing that cost, which can be quite significant. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Like the other members of council, I did the tour of the town facility. I also did the Regional Waste Commission orientation, as alternates were invited to that. Just to follow up on Councillor Cummings' comment about the new chair. The new chair is Greg Harris from the county, and the vice chair is Bill Windsor from Didsbury. I did SDAB training, as that was a full day training, and had to take a test, which I passed, woohoo. And I did a PCPS orientation the next day. Attended as the chairman of the Mountain View Seniors Housing Group. I had to attend the ASHA Central Alberta Regional meeting, which was the first time that they had the meeting in person. And it was touch and go as it was going to have quorum, because it was the day after that storm, and so a lot of people were late coming, and we started the meeting without quorum and ended up having quorum at about 11 o'clock, so that was good. I also attended the Olds Police Advisory Committee, as Councillor Blatz already alluded to. I had a SDAB hearing in Olds last week. And then also, I attended a SEWA orientation for new board members and alternates that was held in Wheatland County. And of course, I did the regular stuff, the PMP and the OFL board meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody's busy. Okay, November 24 to 20. Attended the Rural Municipalities of Alberta Convention in Edmonton. Was beneficial to network with county elected officials and learn of their fall 2021 resolutions up for debate. There was an emergent resolution that the Rural Municipalities of Alberta, ARMA, refused to enter into any discussions with Alberta Municipalities AM that would result in any attempt to merge the ARMA and AM, and it passed with 82% of the votes. It was very informative discussion, and it was very engaged by all members. The Government of Alberta Cabinet Ministers panel engaged fully with members, and the Truth and Reconciliation panel was led by Minister of Indigenous Relations, Rick Wilson, who was very knowledgeable, updating on all the projects in his works. Overall, the convention was successful and the days were full. Ending the month of November included a facilities tour for elected officials of our Sportsplex, Fire Hall, RCMP Detachment, Parks, Operations Center, etc. Enlightened us on uses and direction moving forward for the future. I want to thank all the people involved that made that happen. The OI Community Lifestyles Age-Friendly Committee workshop on transportation and how to build sustainable future, and attended my very first Mayor's South Central Alberta meeting held in Didsbury. So December continues with council policies and priorities and council regular meetings that included our interim budget process and continues with daily business activity. In closing, a recap that our very own Chief Administrative Officer, Michael Merritt, has announced his retirement in November after 40 years of service, and council will be actively moving forward in search of his successor. 2021 brought both challenges and successes, and we draw this year to an end. So please remember the eternal message of peace and kindness and goodwill to all people. On behalf of the Town of Old's elected officials and staff, I would like to wish everyone a healthy, hopeful holiday season and prosperous new year. I just want to thank everybody for everything you've done for all this new council, and I'm pretty excited to look forward to the new year with each and every one of you. So thank you. All right. If there's nothing else to report, we are looking for a motion, please, for the reports we received for information. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that the reports from council, authorities, boards, committees, and commissions ending December 13, 2021 be received for information.
So prior, we have legislative clerk.
Thank you. Before you vote, I just wanted to make a note of an error that Director Greco brought to my attention. I have highlighted Parkland Community Planning Services as providing a report. It should have been the one right below it, Parkland Regional Library, so my apologies, I'll make that amendment.
Well noted, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. Those in favor? That's carried. Very good. Let's move to page 111 in our agenda at this time. Correspondence and information. Hello. There we go. Okay, we had a lot of correspondence and information. Of course, a lot of it was just the election congratulations that came to myself as well as council as a whole. I wanted you all to be able to know who they came from. That is why you see them in your agenda. And are there any questions to any of these correspondence? Mr. Merritt?
I just want to note there are 12 pieces of correspondence in keeping with the season. There are 5 congratulations, 2 thank yous, 2 holiday greetings, 2 Parkland Regional Library correspondence, and 1 OIC. And I do want to highlight the OIC especially because that is the end of our IDP and our annexation report we had with Mountain View County, and it was very successful. And on January 1st, 2022, the Town of Olds will grow in size. We'll have our 3 quarter sections to the north and east of the Town Hall as part of the Town of Olds. And as I said, it shows the cooperation we have with our other municipalities and how it can work out to the benefit of all residents, whether in town or in the region itself. And I just want to also echo holiday greetings myself to our staff, to our council, to our residents. Thank you for your support over the past year. And if anybody goes to my holiday door at my office, they'll see that I'll be having a blue Christmas.
Looks like a skating rink. And guess who for? Thank you very much, Mr. Merritt. That was really well done. You're pretty good at singing. Do we have a motion on the floor? Okay, I would ask for a motion then to accept the correspondence for information. Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, I would like to move that the correspondence and information report ending December 13th, 2021 be received for information.
That's carried. Thank you very much. All right, just moving along on the agenda, I'd like to, this meeting is going into a closed session under FOIP Section 17. For those of you joining us via live streaming, the meeting stream will be replaced by a graphic, and music will play while council is in closed session. With the music stops, the meeting is reconvening. If you choose to shut down your live stream, please watch the Town of Old's social media feeds where the reconvening time will be posted. The social media feeds can also be found at the bottom of the home page on the Town of Old's website. Thank you very much, Mr. Cooley, for your attendance. I would ask then at this time, or seek a motion from council, please, to move into a closed session, Section 17. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will so make that motion that council as of 3:14, move to a closed session under FOIP Section 17.
Please note the attendees present. Who will be staying?
I believe all of the executive team will stay for this as their appointees to public boards.
The only departure will be the media. Mr. Cooley, and thank you for your attendance. We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Thank you for your patience. At this time, I would ask Councillor Blatz to put the motion on the floor for public at large appointments.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a point of order, are these two separate motions?
Yes,
Okay,
they are.
All right. All right, so I will make then the first motion that Evelyn Smith be appointed to the Family and Community Support Services Advisory Board, FCSS, for a term of 2 years to expire at the 2023 organizational meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. We have an entrance. Thank you. Those in favor? That's carried. And then for our Old Municipal Library, who would like to make that motion? Did you write it?
I
Did you
didn't write
it
down her whole name, but I've served on the library board with her. Yeah, Delane Sheena Millane.
Okay. You're going to have to read the motion.
I move that Delane Sheena Millane be appointed to the Old Municipal Library Board for a term of 2 years to expire on the 23rd organizational meeting.
2023 organizational meeting?
2023rd, yeah.
All right. If there's no questions, then I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. And a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Ryan? Go ahead. You're putting a motion on the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Dole. I'll move adjournment, thank you. Duh.
You got the time. Good. Thank you. Merry Christmas and to your family. I hope everybody's safe and healthy and happy. We're voting on the adjournment now. That's carried.